It's never an easy feat to sit down and try to compile a list of top 10 figures of a single year. 2021 brought us a lot of great figures, and it's even better than 2020 and 2019. It seems like every year figures just get better and we get more of them. So it gets really difficult every year, more so than the previous year, to compile a list, at least for me. So this year I definitely had to leave out a lot of figures that I really wanted to be in my top 10. The way this video will go will be my top 10, of course. Then I'll have my super honorable mentions, and then I'll have regular honorable mentions. And the two separate honorable mention categories is because there's so many figures that I wanted to put on the list that I couldn't because I was just limited to only 10. I could sit here and give you a top 20, a top 30, but then that'd be ridiculous. So we're going to look at my top 10, my super honorable mentions, and my regular honorable mentions. Super honorable mentions being figures that pretty much made the list, but just I couldn't fit it into the top 10 because I'm limited, you know? Of course, a reminder that this is my personal top 10. The figures in this list consist of figures that I purchased myself and actually held and played with and reviewed, or maybe I didn't review, but I still own them. There may be figures that you would like to see on my list that aren't there because I simply do not own the figure. An example, I do not own the Conan Mezcal figure, which I know a lot of people will have on their list, but I don't have it, so I can't put it on my list. Another thing is I will not be including any build-up figures. I decided to do that because there's so many figures released this year that were so good. A lot of regular figures and a lot of build-up figures, and I don't know, build-up figures would have taken a lot of the spots, and I just felt like they should be separate. You know, maybe this should be a top 5 or top 3 build the figures of 2021, something like that. But this just is the way I'm doing my video. I'm also not including any hot toys, and I'm not going to include the HasLab Sentinel as a regular figure for the top 10 list. Coming in at number 10 for 2021, it is the Mezcal 112 Collective Rumble Society Vapor figure. Now you can decide whether you want to make this the white edition or the regular edition, but they're the same figure, so both of them would be the same anyways, I feel like. But I did not get the white version, so I did only get the regular version, and that one was great. It's a very nice, different figure. Mezcal had quite the interesting year in 2021. They did not really release too much licensed figures. It was a very heavy Rumble Society year, and it's okay, but at the same time I left a little bad taste in my mouth because I really do like their Marvel figures, and if I remember correctly, the past couple years in my top 10 list, a lot of their Marvel 112 collective figures made my top 10, and some other DC ones as well. Not a single one made it this year because there just wasn't any that were good enough. I think they released maybe 1, 2, or 3. I don't know how many, but simply not enough Marvel or DC 112 collective figures. With that said, I did want to include at least one Mezcal figure, but I would only do that if I really felt like it deserved a top 10 spot. So I wasn't trying to force myself to put in a Mezcal figure. So this wasn't forced, but it's definitely the only option that I would choose because Vapor simply is a great figure. If you do not own Vapor, you gotta check them out for sure. I mean, of course, we all know Mezcal 112 and their soft goods. They're really good at that, and they get better every year. And this figure was packed full with a lot of accessories. The facial expressions, and the the hand expression, the posability, the fun factor of the figure was pretty much through the roof. So that's why it's deserving of at least a number 10 spot on the list. Alright, coming in at number 9, we're looking at the Marvel Legends Zombie Captain America from the What If Disney Plus wave. Now, the entire wave, don't get me wrong, is excellent. If I could, I would make this number 9 spot for the entire What If wave, but I feel like that's a little bit too much. So I'm going to single out my favorite figure of the entire wave, and that is the Zombie Captain America, a figure I never imagined I would have on a top 10 list, but it is that good. It's so fun to play with. It's so fun to pose. I definitely spent extra time with this figure after I reviewed it, posing him around and taking a lot of pictures of him. Super fun. You really got to try it out, and the details on this thing is amazing. I'm pretty impressed at the lengths that Hasbro went to include some gore into this figure and some pretty gruesome sculpting. And, you could really see the flesh, you could see the bones, you can see through the body, and it's a really dope figure, and it's super posable, and it's just really fun. That's all I can say to describe this figure. The number 8 spot, similar to my number 9 spot, this entire wave was amazing. It's my favorite wave of the year for Marvel Legends, and that it is the Ursa Major Wave. But again, I'm not going to do the entire wave as a spot here, so I'm going to single out my favorite figure of the wave, and that is the Modular Iron Man figure. This figure is really nice. It's so nice to look at. It's so good. It feels great in the hand. It's very sturdy, and it's Iron Man, and it's in this new mold. It looks really good and classic. A lot of people do wish that we did get this in the classic yellow and classic red. I think that's definitely an option for a repaint down the road, but I really dig the metallic color that they chose for this. The figure is aesthetically pleasing, it has great shelf presence, and it really wants me to demand more comic-based figures from Iron Man. I really hope they do give us a wave 2 for the Iron Man wave of Marvel Legends. It's definitely a must-have for any Iron Man collector out there. If you're compiling a Hall of Armor, you definitely want to get this figure. It's a nice update to the Toy Biz version that was really out of date now, and you can't go wrong with this figure. Now coming in number 7, it is the final Marvel Legends on my list, and it's going to go to the Infinity Saga Ironmonger figure from the 2-pack with Obadiah Stane. Again, Infinity Saga, an amazing group of figures, some of the best MCU figures we've ever gotten. This was very difficult to choose over some of the others, but most of those others are on my honorable mentions, as you can probably already tell since they're not on this list. So I chose Ironmonger because he is such an amazing update to the only Ironmonger we had before this, which was the first Iron Man movie, 6-inch movie wave. It wasn't even labeled Marvel Legends at the time, but it was the only thing we had. It was out of scale, horribly out of scale. It just wasn't good enough for Marvel Legends. Really impressed with what they did with this upgraded version. It is massive. It is to scale. It looks great. It is one of my favorite figures on my MCU shelf, and I really needed a true Ironmonger from the movie, and I'm just pretty ecstatic that it came with an Obadiah Stane too, as like a bonus in my opinion. So Ironmonger definitely is worth grabbing. If you haven't checked them out, check him out because he is an amazing figure, very fun to play with. So don't get me wrong, Star Wars The Black Series is still strong and kicking, but there wasn't really a lot of releases this year that could beat the other figures that are on this list. Not to say that they were not great, they just weren't as good as some of the other figures. It's a lot of competition in terms of who gets a top 10 spot for my list, so I only was able to fit in one Black Series figure, and I had to give it to Tech. So Tech goes into number 6 on my top 10 list. He is from the Bad Batch. I was almost going to just say the entire Bad Batch crew, but we don't have the whole crew yet. We're still waiting for Echo. He comes out this year sometime, so he definitely didn't make 2021. I couldn't say the entire Bad Batch crew, but most of those figures are great. Wrecker is another great figure, so you could just say that the rest of the Bad Batch crew are on my honorable mentions, but Tech definitely is my favorite one from the entire bunch. It was such a pleasure to open that figure and mess with it. It looks so good. The only gripe I would have with that figure is the fact that you can't have him unmasked with goggles. The goggles are only on the actual helmet, and when he doesn't have his helmet on the show, he does have the goggles on for the most part. So very weird to see him without the goggles when he's unmasked. So I definitely keep him with the helmet on. He looks better that way anyways. That's how I'd recommend you guys display him, but of course you can do whatever you want with your display. Props to the Hasbro Black Series team for giving us the Bad Batch crew so fast, and wrapping up the year with Tech just makes me that much more excited for Echo coming down the road. This figure was unfortunately one of those figures that I never got around to actually reviewing, and I wish I did. but I just never got around to it, unfortunately. So I know I'm going to contradict myself here on this one, but with number 5, I'm going to give it to the entire Ginyu Force from the Dragon Ball Z SH Figure Arts line. Now, Captain Ginyu did come out the previous year. Jace was a little weird one. Jace came out between 2 years, pretty much. There was a delay for the US release, and some Japanese releases did get it the year prior, but he did bleed heavily into 2021, so I consider him a 2021 release as well. So meaning Ginyu is the only character within the crew that did not come out in 2021. But I'll give it to the Ginyu Force anyways because I did not want to use up 2 spots for Rikum and Birder, which are amazing figures. So the entire Ginyu Force is my number 5 spot. Such a beautiful set of figures. I'm so happy that this crew was completed in such quick fashion. We got this as quick as possible as you can possibly get imports made. For me, it's hard to decide which one of these figures is my favorite. It's definitely leaning towards Birder. He's such a big figure, and Rikum is another great figure, but I might give it to Birder if I had to choose one of the entire crew. But having the entire crew together is money. That is the display. That you cannot just have one of these guys and that's it. There's just no way. Birder did come with Goldo. Now, a lot of controversy with Goldo, not articulated. It's just a static figure. He did come with alternate arms, which gave us an option to pose him differently, and I do appreciate that. They could have not done that, but I really do think they could have given us an articulated Goldo. With that said, maybe they'll give us a separate release one day. I don't know. That's kind of weird, but hey, it's possible. I think they should do something about it, though. They should definitely give us an articulated Goldo if they went out their way to give us an articulated Chatsu with the TN release from this year as well. But the whole Goldo controversy aside, Birder is still a great figure, and he wrapped up the entire Ginyu Force for us. And these guys just display so well. The fact that you can get them into their poses, all of their crazy, stupid poses that they like to do, is the part that makes it all worth it. I mean, these figures aren't cheap. We had to get them one by one. Luckily, they didn't come out as a 5-pack. That would have been insane to pay all that at once. But of course, I would have done it. If you're a DBZ fan out there, you're doing yourself a disservice by not owning the Ginyu Force. Number 4 goes to the Dragon Ball Z SH Figure Arts First Form Frieza. This Frieza was a Frieza we've been wanting for so long. It took 3 Final Form Frieza releases before we got to get a separate, different form of Frieza. Frieza has multiple transformation forms, and it's nuts that it took this long to receive a different form, but I'm glad that we did. It was worth the wait. And they went out their way to give us a Frieza pod. That's insane. I never would have imagined to get a hover pod with Frieza, and I'm happy they did. This makes the figure for me. Without the pod, I feel like this release would have been a little bit higher on the list and not so low, but the pod is money. That is the display I have him in. I actually bought 2 of these figures. One is displayed in the pod and one is displayed out of the pod, but you definitely deserve to grab the almighty villain from Dragon Ball Z, Frieza himself, and I hope we do get his 2nd and 3rd form. The scale of the figure is very accurate, thus making him very small, and they did use the pod as a compensation for the size of the figure. Such a great idea. He also did come with one of the Namekian Dragon Balls so you can complete your set. So we're in heavy Dragon Ball Z territory here. If you guys don't know me by now, I don't know what you're doing here, but I am the biggest Dragon Ball Z fan. It is my favorite toy line of them all, and they went all out this year. So coming in at number 3, gotta give it up to Raditz. Raditz was also long overdue. Raditz is something that we should have gotten so long ago. But it's finally here, and I'm happy that it took this long because look what we've gone through since the beginning of this line. How many, retoolings, the articulation has improved, the painting has improved, sculpting has improved, everything has improved since day one. And definitely if this guy would have come out in the beginning, he would be due for a upgrade already. So Raditz came out. He is massive, really big, really heavy because of the hair, but the sculpt is so nice. The presence of this figure is much needed for my Sand Saga display, and he just looks so good. I did buy 2 of these guys just because I love this figure so much. So definitely you got to check out Raditz if you passed them up. So I did have a massive debate with myself between the number 2 and the number 1 spot. Essentially, these 2 figures both earn a number 1 spot in my book, but I did have to choose one over the other. So number 2 goes to the Super Saiyan 4 Goku Dragon Ball GT SH Figuarts figure. Almost made my number 1 spot simply because he was a Dragon Ball GT. He is actually the first Dragon Ball GT figure made and introduced into the SH Figuarts line, something that I've been campaigning for a long time. I've been wanting GT to make an appearance for Dragon Ball Z SH Figuarts forever, and I felt like we would never get it. A lot of people hate GT, a lot of people dislike the designs and the story, and I just always felt like it was never going to be made. And I don't know if it was Dragon Ball FighterZ the video game or if it was something else, but they found a way to release him, and I'm happy that they did. He is great. He does have a few issues. At least my figure came with a lot of loose joints, and that's what also contributed to my decision of putting him to number 2, because if your joints aren't as good as number 1, then why should you beat number 1? Now, that's not to say that maybe somebody else's figure isn't better quality controlled than mine, but at least my experience wasn't as great as I expected in terms of the articulation in the joints. So other than that, the figure is great. It's everything I ever wanted for a Super Saiyan 4 Goku. It's the best Super Saiyan 4 Goku figure ever made, as that is the trend for every Dragon Ball figure made by Bandai Tamashii and SH Figuarts. They definitely can't leave us with SS4 Goku. We gotta get SS4 Vegeta and Gogeta. Hopefully, I am hoping that we do get more GT characters such as villains and other side characters as well, but only time will tell. As for now, I gotta be grateful for what we got, and the fact that we did get an SS4 Goku and he was as good as he was definitely earns my number 2 spot at the very least. So my number 1 figure of 2021 goes to the Dragon Ball Z SH Figuarts Cooler figure. What a perfect figure. I really have no gripes on this figure. I can't find any. The joints are as tight as can be. The paint apps are perfect. It's got shading. The sculpt is perfection. The articulation is amazing. You can get him in almost every cooler pose that you can. He does come with alternate heads. It is the perfect figure. I love this thing. It is so nice. I almost want to buy a second one. It is something that you have to kind of experience in person. It's just one of the best figures in the entire Dragon Ball Z SH Figuarts line in general. So he did beat out SS4 Goku because of the fact that he is perfect, pretty much. He doesn't have any issues with the articulation like I did with the Goku, and his paint apps are great. I have no issues with the color tones that they chose here. SS4 is a little light. I felt like it could have been a darker red for the fur, and this guy came out as I wanted him to come out. So definitely did not expect Cooler to be my number 1, but when I did get him in hand, I knew he was going to be a strong candidate for the number 1 spot on my top 10 list. And there you have it. Now that is my top 10 list. I'm going to move straight to my honorable mentions. I'll start with my super honorables, and I'll start off with the HasLab Sentinel. Of course, I did not want to include this as a regular figure in my top 10. I just feel weird about it. It is what it is. It's just the way I want to do it. I'm sure others will include this as a regular figure. But I'm not. It's just a weird situation with this one. So I'll leave this as a super honorable mention. The HasLab Sentinel. The Ursa Major Build-A-Figure, actually the entire wave deserves a super honorable mention. The Hydra Stomper. Captain Carter. I'm going to go ahead and say the whole entire What If wave is deserving of a super honorable mention. One of the best waves of the year. Doctor Strange is another great one in that wave. The almost the entire Infinity Saga. I'm going to pinpoint a few that are better than others. The Thor, the Fat Thor, Iron Man Mark III, the Mark 85 Iron Man from the 2-pack, with Thanos. The head sculpt is complete money on that one. And I'll leave it at that for the Infinity Sagas. Next, on super honorable mentions, I'll say that the MODOK Deluxe figure, Black Series Bo-Katan and Asajj Ventress. And then I'll cap it off with some G.I. Joe classifieds. I didn't have a single G.I. Joe on my list. I wanted to so badly. And I'll mention Major Blood and Zartan. In regards to regular honorable mentions, I'll just list them real quick. Hercules, Red Skull from the Super Villains Wave, Hit from the Dragon Ball Z SH Figure Arts line. Honestly, pretty much most of the releases from this year, such as Namek, Bulma, Hit, Tien, Bardock, definitely Bardock. I do want to mention the repainted Nappa, even though he is a repaint, he's repainted to the anime version, which is something we should have gotten from the start. Agent Gomez Hazard Squad from the Mezcal 112 Collective line. Flint and Lady J from, again, G.I. Joe Classified. Well, that's it, guys. That's going to be my top 10 figures of 2021. I'll make one more video. I'll make a top 10 Dragon Ball Z, of course, right? Of all things. Top 10 Dragon Ball Z SH Figure Arts list of mine. So, obviously, I did mention 5 figures from this list, so expect those to be on there. But what are the other 5? So, stay tuned for that video to check out what my top 10 DBZ figures of 2021 are going to be. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. As always, guys, take it easy and have a good one.